I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody...
The letter Taehyung never sent, but Jungkook always read. In the dazzling world of K-pop, where every heartbeat is amplified by a million screams, truth often hides not in the spotlight, but in the shadows behind it. Underneath the glitter, the pyrotechnics, and the endless applause, there are moments too fragile for cameras, too delicate for microphones. One such moment belonged to Jungkook. And the only witness was Kim Taehyung. The letter without ink. It began not with a stage, but with silence. A silence so heavy it seemed to lean against the walls of Jungkook's room. The kind of silence that doesn't simply fill a space, but presses against the chest, making it hard to breathe. Jungkook sat there, a notebook open before him. The page was white, unmarked, untouched. His head was bowed, his shoulders trembling faintly as though the act of simply sitting upright was exhausting. Not because he had nothing to say, but because what he wanted to say was too dangerous to write. Taehyung lingered at the doorway, caught between intrusion and retreat. His hand hovered near the knob, debating whether to walk in or let the silence consume his friend. But Taehyung stayed. Because sometimes, love is not about finding the right words, it is about refusing to leave when silence becomes unbearable. The room smelled faintly of ink and rain. Outside, Seoul's neon glow reflected on the wet streets. And in that half-light, Jungkook whispered words he never put on paper. Taehyung pretended not to hear. But in truth he memorized every syllable, as if storing them for a day when Jungkook could no longer carry them alone. The song that couldn't breathe. When Jungkook went live on Weverse, Army around the world saw a boy in a black hoodie, eyes swollen from sleepless nights, voice breaking in the middle of sentences. To them it was vulnerability at its purest, raw, aching, unforgettable. But the camera told only half the story. The frame ended just before the corner of the room, where a shadow sat still, unseen. Taehyung. He was there when Jungkook whispered, "I want to speak, but my voice feels like it doesn't belong to me." He was there when Jungkook's lips trembled around the words, "I love her, and I don't know how to carry this love without breaking." And he was there when silence stretched so long it became its own kind of music, a song unsung but heavier than any melody. To the fans, the silence felt like hesitation. To Taehyung it was confession. A confession too sharp to be heard, too fragile to be repeated. The witness who carried it too. The world cried that night, but what the world never knew was that Taehyung's tear fell first. It slid down quietly, leaving no sound, no sob. Just a single drop that carried more weight than words ever could. It was not jealousy. It was not envy. It was recognition. Because Taehyung had seen it all before. The way Jungkook stared too long at unwritten lyrics, the way laughter would die in his throat too quickly, the way his gaze searched stages and crowds for someone who wasn't there. Taehyung wasn't just hearing a confession. He was inheriting it. Carrying it. Protecting it, as if by keeping Jungkook's secret alive, he could protect the boy himself from collapsing beneath its weight. The empty space. The fans noticed it soon, a single empty chair at Jungkook's concerts. Always front row. Sometimes decorated with white flowers. Sometimes left untouched, as if waiting for someone who never arrived. They believed it was Jungkook's idea. A personal gesture. An artist's symbol. But the truth belonged to another. "Leave a space," Taehyung told Jungkook one night, voice calm, steady. "So you'll never feel like you're singing to no one. Even in the silence she'll be listening." And so the chair remained. Night after night. Concert after concert. Not just a seat but a sanctuary. Not just an absence but a reminder that grief can live beside music without destroying it. When Army saw the chair they wept for Jungkook. But Taehyung wept for something else, the courage it took to leave a space for someone who would never sit there. The sky that carried secrets. The first time Army launched blue paper birds into the night sky, sky letters they called them, Seoul glowed with 1,000 tiny messages drifting upward. Jungkook stood among them, unnoticed. No makeup, no spotlight. Just another figure in the crowd. His hand clutched a white envelope so tightly the paper creased under his fingers. And beside him, unseen by the fans, stood Taehyung. He didn't cheer. He didn't cry. He only watched. And in his silence he understood, the envelope Jungkook gripped was never meant to be opened. A letter never written, yet somehow always read. And Taehyung knew, Jungkook didn't need ink or paper. The words were already carved into him, deeper than any wound. The door that never closed. Months later at a Tokyo concert, Jungkook sang an unreleased song, The Door I Never Closed. His voice cracked, uneven, almost broken. But in that imperfection, truth was sharper than any polished note. I still leave a light. For you who didn't come home. I keep the sound of your footsteps. In the corridor of dreams I never closed. Fans recorded shaky videos, their tears falling onto their phones. Online, the song spread like fire, like confession, like prayer. But Taehyung, standing in the shadows just beyond the stage lights, clenched his jaw so tightly his teeth ached. Because he had already heard those words, long ago, in a small room filled with silence. He was the first witness. And now he was watching as the world became witness too. The brother's burden. History will remember Jungkook as the boy who confessed. The artist who turned grief into poetry, silence into song. But history will forget the man in the corner, the silent witness who carried that confession too. Taehyung carried it every time he stood beside Jungkook without asking questions. He carried it every time he smiled on stage while knowing what lay behind the smile. He carried it in every glance at that empty seat, remembering the night he first heard words meant for no one but the silence. And yet, Taehyung never faltered. Never betrayed. Never spoke. Because some burdens are not meant to be lifted, they are meant to be shared in silence, between two souls bound by something stronger than words. Epilogue. When the encore ends and the lights fade, Jungkook always turns toward the empty seat. He bows, closes his eyes, whispers something no microphone catches. And somewhere behind the curtain, Taehyung stands still. His heart heavy, his eyes glistening. Not because he envies the love, but because he remembers the silence before the world knew it. Perhaps that is love in its purest form. Not to sing the song. Not to be the beloved. But to be the witness. The one who holds the secret so it doesn't vanish. The world remembers the music. But Taehyung will always remember the silence that birthed it. And maybe, just maybe, that is the truest story of them all. And so, as the lights slowly dim on this story, we are left holding the fragments of emotions that words could never fully capture. It feels less like an ending and more like a pause, a gentle breath before the next chapter is written. The echoes of what we've witnessed tonight linger quietly, reminding us that some truths are not spoken loudly, they are carried softly in the spaces between heartbeats. And perhaps that is where their meaning becomes the most powerful. What remains is not just a story about them, but about us too, about the way we listen, the way we feel, and the way we hold on to pieces of love that are never truly ours, yet still change us forever. There is something hauntingly beautiful about knowing that even in silence, emotions can still travel across time, reaching us no matter how far we stand from the moment they were born. And maybe that's the real gift we are given, not the answers, not the certainty, but the ability to wonder, to hope, to ache, and to dream alongside them. The curtain falls slowly, not to close the stage, but to protect what cannot yet be revealed. In that gentle darkness, the promise of tomorrow quietly waits. For now, let us treasure what we've seen, let us carry it carefully, knowing that the story is not finished, it is simply resting, gathering strength for the day it dares to rise again. And when it does, we will be here, waiting. With open hearts. With tear-stained smiles. With the same longing that binds us all. Because some connections never fade, they only transform, finding new ways to remind us that we were always meant to feel this deeply. Until then, let us hold on. Until then, let us believe. And until then, we will meet again in the next video where another story will unfold.